What is silence, really? It's not just the absence of noise, not the pause before someone speaks, but something deeper, something that hums quietly beneath our lives. We don't notice it much anymore, not with all the pings, voices, traffic, screens, but silence, it's still there, waiting. Think about sitting in a room after a fight, when nothing is said because everything has been said. That kind of silence isn't empty. It's full of tension, of truth, of things we don't yet know how to say. Or the pause before someone gives you bad news, when time stretches and the world holds its breath. That silence has weight. It has shape. People across centuries have turned to silence to find answers. Monks vowed it. Philosophers trusted it. Poets wrote around it. Because silence reveals things, not loudly, not all at once, but slowly, like stars appearing after sunset. Maybe that's why we fear it now. Because silence doesn't just surround us, it reflects us. It shows us who we really are when the noise stops. This is a journey into that silence, not the awkward kind, but the kind that listens back, and maybe, just maybe, says something you've needed to hear, how silence feels. Silence isn't just the opposite of noise. It's not something we turn on when the world gets too loud. It's more like a presence, subtle, invisible, but deeply powerful. We often imagine it as a gap between sounds, like the pause between two songs or the hush in a classroom before the bell. But true silence, it lives deeper than that. It's in the spaces where words fail, in the look someone gives when they're holding back tears, in the way your heart sounds louder when you're finally alone. Some silences are soft, gentle, like sitting beside a lake at sunrise when the world hasn't yet woken up. That kind of silence feels like the earth breathing. It doesn't demand, it allows. It opens space for the soul to rise. But other silences are heavy, the kind you find in hospital corridors or beside a grave. That silence feels like weight pressing on your chest. It doesn't soothe, it stares you down. Sometimes silence isn't chosen, it's carried. We stay quiet, not because we have nothing to say, but because the truth is too large, too raw, too painful for words. And yet, silence speaks. It communicates what language often ruins. A tear, a hug, a long gaze across a room, all of them wordless, all of them full. We're taught to fear silence, to fill it. But maybe silence isn't the problem. Maybe it's the mirror. Maybe what truly scares us is what rises up when the noise stops. The feelings we've buried, the questions we've avoided. But in that stillness, we stop performing. We start being. So what is silence, really? It's not nothing. It's everything we've been too distracted to feel. It's the breath between thought and truth. The space where meaning waits, not loudly, but patiently. And sometimes all it takes to hear it is to close your eyes and listen, not with your ears, but with something deeper. Ancient civilizations and sacred silence. Silence isn't new. Long before texts and timelines, before cities and machines, silence was part of life. People didn't need to define it. They felt it. In the wind through trees, the pause before thunder, the hush beneath the stars. Silence wasn't just natural. It was sacred. In ancient India, silence wasn't weakness or absence. It was a spiritual practice called mauna. Sages believed the deepest truths couldn't be spoken. Words could only point. Silence was where truth actually lived. Even now, silent retreats are held so the mind can stop explaining and start understanding. In China, the Taoist master Laozi wrote, "Silence is a source of great strength. In Taoism, the Tao, the way, can't be put into words. To name it is to break it." Silence then becomes a kind of wisdom, Those who truly know don't need to speak. Those who speak too much may not truly know. In ancient Greece, Pythagoras made his students stay silent for 5 years, not as punishment, but as preparation. He believed listening came before speaking, and silence taught discipline, attention, and insight. Even in Egypt, the god Harpocrates represented silence. His finger to his lips wasn't secrecy, it was reverence, a gesture of protecting what is too sacred to say. All over the world, religions carried silence in their bones. Christian monks took vows of silence to draw closer to God. The Desert Fathers sought the divine in wilderness and wordlessness. In Sufi Islam, silence, samt, was a path to the beloved. When the lips are silent, the heart has 100 tongues, they said. In Zen Buddhism, a single moment of silent awareness could awaken the mind more than any teaching. Across continents and centuries, silence was not emptiness, it was wisdom. It was the space where listening happened, where presence deepened, where truth arrived unannounced. So how did we forget? How did silence become awkward? How did it become something to escape? The ancients knew silence wasn't absence. It was everything else. The mystery, the depth, the thing behind the thing. And maybe, if we remember what they knew, we'll realize silence hasn't disappeared. It's just been waiting, patiently, for us to stop and listen. When words fail, the message beyond language. We live in a world drenched in words. Messages, captions, comments, conversations. We're always explaining, defining, labeling. But even with all this language, there are moments where words simply fail. You know those moments. When someone you love is gone and the air feels too thick to breathe. When you look at someone and know they understand you without saying a thing. Or when something is so beautiful, so overwhelming, that you just stand there, unable to speak. That's the edge of language. That's where silence begins. Words are incredible tools. They shape our world, carry our memories, build our relationships. But like all tools, they have limits. They reduce the infinite into something bite-sized. And sometimes, that reduction flattens what we most need to express. Think about grief, the deep, aching kind. People say things like, "I'm sorry for your loss," or "they're in a better place." And while those words are kind, they never touch the actual storm inside. The most comforting thing in those moments is often a silent hand on your shoulder, someone sitting beside you, saying nothing, but being there. Or think about love. I love you matters, yes. But love lives beyond that phrase. It's in quiet acts of care, in a glance that says everything, in the feeling of being safe in someone's presence without a single word exchanged. Even joy can go beyond speech. Have you ever laughed so hard that you couldn't even breathe, let alone talk? Or watched a sunset that made your whole body quiet? Those are the moments where silence holds what words can't contain. Philosophers and mystics have wrestled with this for centuries. Wittgenstein, the great Austrian thinker, once wrote, "Whereof one cannot speak, thereof one must be silent." Not as a surrender, but as a recognition that some truths aren't made of language. They live beneath it, around it, beyond it. Mystics across traditions say the same. That God or the soul or ultimate truth, whatever name you give it, can't be captured in speech. Naming it shrinks it. That's why monks choose silence, why saints retreat to the desert, why poets sometimes leave blank space. In Zen Buddhism, there's a riddle-like saying, "The truth cannot be spoken. That is why I talk to you." It sounds contradictory, but it's not. Words point the way, like signs. But the journey itself, that happens in silence. Even in art, silence makes a statement. In 1952, composer John Cage premiered a piece called 4 minutes 33 seconds. The performer played nothing, For 4 minutes and 33 seconds, the audience sat with the ambient noise of the room, the rustle of clothing, a cough, the hum of the lights. The silence was the music. The message, silence, isn't empty. It's alive. It's part of the experience. And maybe that's true for life too. Sometimes, the most honest thing we can do is stop talking, to stop filling space with justifications or explanations, to let silence say what we can't. Yes, that can feel scary, because silence removes the mask, but it also reveals clarity. When you sit with someone who's grieving and you don't speak, you're not withholding, you're respecting. You're saying, "I see you, I'm here." There are no words, but there is presence. When you lie next to someone you love in the dark, the silence between you isn't distance, it's closeness. It says, you don't need to perform, you can just exist here. Words build bridges between minds, but silence crosses those bridges with the heart. And maybe the point isn't to choose silence over speech. It's to learn when to stop talking and let the silence speak for us. Because the deepest truths, the ones that actually change us, don't shout, they whisper. And if we're quiet enough, we just might hear them. Silence in a world that won't stop talking. It's strange how something as old and natural as silence has become so rare. There was a time when silence was woven into everyday life, in the spaces between stars, in the quiet of walking through woods, in the pause before a fire crackled. But now, silence feels almost endangered. Everywhere we go, there's noise, traffic, advertisements, notifications, people talking over podcasts, talking over playlists. Even when we're physically alone, we fill the air with noise, just to avoid the discomfort of quiet. And that's the thing. Silence doesn't just vanish, we push it away. We reach for distractions like a reflex. Because when it's finally quiet, we're left with something we don't always know how to face, ourselves. In silence, there's nowhere to hide. No scrolling, no filters, just you and the thoughts, memories, or feelings you've been keeping just out of reach. It can be overwhelming, but it can also be the start of healing. The modern world tells us to keep moving. Be productive, be loud. In that mindset, stillness feels like failure. Quiet feels like falling behind. But the truth is, silence is essential for the body, for the brain, and for the soul. Studies show that even 2 minutes of silence can lower stress more than music. It boosts memory, enhances focus. It can even regenerate brain cells. But beyond the science, silence gives us something deeper. It brings us back to ourselves. It clears the fog. Right now, many of us don't really know who we are beneath the noise. We know how to post, how to perform, how to keep busy, but not how to just sit and listen to our own thoughts, not how to feel what's been waiting in the quiet, and yet deep down, we miss it. That's why people crave silent retreats, why meditation apps are everywhere, why we dream of cabins in the woods, off-grid weekends, or long walks without a phone. We're not running from the world, we're running back to silence, back to something that feels real. Think about your most meaningful moments. Were they loud or were they still? Watching someone you love sleep, sitting at the edge of the ocean, holding someone's hand after a long, heavy day. Those moments don't ask for words. They are the meaning. But our culture doesn't celebrate that kind of silence. It doesn't trend. It doesn't sell. It doesn't shout. So we lose it, not because it's gone, but because we forget to make space for it. But what if we chose to protect silence, the way we protect anything sacred? It doesn't take a monastery. You don't need to escape your life. You just need to pause. Leave the phone behind for a walk. Sit with your coffee and listen instead of scroll. Take 5 quiet minutes before the day begins. Not to fix anything, but just to be. Because the world will keep getting louder. That's not going to change. But you can. You can choose to turn down the volume, inside and out. Silence reminds you that you're not your calendar, not your inbox, not your feed. You are something deeper, something still, steady, and whole. In a time when everyone's talking, maybe silence is rebellion. A quiet act of remembering that you're already enough, that you don't have to explain everything, that you're allowed to just be. Conclusion: meeting yourself in the quiet. Silence is one of the few things every human shares, yet we talk about it the least. It appears at life's sharpest edges, when a baby is born, when someone we love dies, when words aren't enough. In those moments, silence steps in, not to cover up what we feel, but to hold it. And maybe that's what silence truly is, the space where life speaks for itself. In a world that rewards constant talking, silence asks for none of that. It doesn't want your performance. It doesn't care about your achievements. It just wants your presence. Silence brings you back to your breath, your body, your awareness. It teaches you how to listen, not just to others, but to the parts of yourself you've been ignoring. It doesn't ask you to figure it all out. It simply lets you be in the middle of it. We're taught that answers come from action, but some answers only come when we stop asking, when we let go and listen, because silence is never just the absence of sound. It is memory, it is presence, it is healing. It is the part of you that knows, even without knowing how. So when the world gets too loud, maybe the answer isn't to run away, but to return, not to escape life, but to hear it more clearly. Because in the end, silence doesn't want to hurt you. It wants to meet you. And maybe, in the stillness, you'll finally meet yourself too. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more deep content. We cover philosophies of life,